Hi, this is Tisch Aitken. It is Halloween. It is October 31st, 2023. We are in very heavy times, obviously, and very scary times. We just had two big eclipses, the first of which was at the world axis, meaning it hits every one of us, big world changing news in your own lives, and obviously big events on the world stage, as we clearly can see. Mars, the god of war, was very strongly involved in both of the eclipses. The first eclipse was at 21 degrees and 6 minutes of the cardinal air sign of Libra, which is less than a degree off from the world point. 22 degrees of the cardinal signs impacts everyone: Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And that eclipse had Eris, the goddess of discord, who's very Mars-like. She is Mars' sister, right on the north node of Karma in Aries, opposite the south node of Karma. And the south node was conjunct Mars in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio is ferocious, can be very violent and unstoppable and cruel. And in that chart, there was Pluto squaring the nodes of fate, which it still is. A lot of power struggles, but the bigger part too was this defaults back to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that changed the world forever on January 12th of 2020. Saturn represents people in authority, governments, corporations. It represents karma and restrictions. It represents structures in our lives. Pluto is the planet of people in massive power. It represents big money. It also represents death and rebirth. We witnessed in the last few years mass death of astronomical proportions. And Pluto dealing with power. Saturn and Pluto are the traditional malefics of the zodiac. And now this eclipse on October 14th set that energy off within half a degree, or less than a degree. And now the whole world is in crisis and horrific things are happening. We see the very, very violent energy of Mars in all that's happening. And in the second eclipse, there was a lunar eclipse in Taurus at 5 degrees and 9 minutes of the fixed Earth sign of Taurus. And in this eclipse chart, Mars, there was a lot of Scorpio in the chart. It had Pisces rising. I cast it for Washington, D.C. Neptune is currently in Pisces at the last degrees of Pisces, bringing a lot of confusion and really, people losing it, a lot of mental illness. I wrote that the world, everybody in some form or another is experiencing PTSD, and somebody replied that some people live happy lives. And I understand that it could sound like I'm doom and gloom, but the world is in crisis. And realistically, I don't know how anybody could go through what we're experiencing now and not feel PTSD or loss in some form. In the last few years, this has just been horrendous, and it's getting worse. Saturn stations direct in Pisces at the very first degree of Pisces, which is where it entered. The ingress of Saturn in Pisces occurred on March 7th of this year. Saturn in Pisces speaks to mental illness and addiction and alienation and depression. We've had the writer's strike for a good portion of this year. Neptune rules film. It rules music. On the higher level, it's the imagination. Anne Ortley, who's an amazing astrologer, often says when Saturn in Pisces or in various water signs, there are no words. Well, in this case, being restricted from speaking and writing of stories that have a lot of importance right now, a lot of big stories will come out of these times we've been in. A lot of art and music will be produced, but it's coming at such a price. And so many artists and entertainers have suffered. We've all suffered. But this also brings me to Matthew Perry and the story with Saturn and Pisces. AA itself was founded in another terrible time in history. In 1935, in the middle of the Great Depression, Bill Wilson, known as Bill W., formed AA. And think of it, Saturn and Pisces, 12 steps, Saturn and Pisces. Pisces is the 12th and final sign. Surrender, serenity. Those are key words that could be applied to Pisces. Anonymity. Pisces is a sign of hidden information. It is the 12th sign. It's the sign of secrets. Having a sense of compassion, helping people that cannot help themselves, helping a drunk worse off than you are. That's, that's selflessness. And Pisces on the higher form, or Neptune, which rules Pisces in modern astrology, is about helping the helpless. My beloved Swami, I can't really quote him like I used to. He's 96 and now he has a good amount of dementia. He comes in, he says brilliant things, but about a month and a half ago, he said, how can I use my helplessness to help others? Might have been longer than that. But that he does always come up with amazing sage things to say. And it's true. That's Saturn and Pisces for all of us. We are all helpless right now. Or if we choose to reframe that, we come together in a very broken world to help other people and use our vulnerability and use our helplessness to help others. Like Bill Wilson in 1935, out of work in the Great Depression. He had been in Wall Street, having no source of income. Nobody really knew much about alcoholism, that it was an allergy and an illness. And he worked tirelessly and brought healing to many people. And Matthew Perry was trying to use his helplessness to help others. Unfortunately, he was not a success case in the big run, or was he? That's not really true. I mean in the sense that he struggled a lot. I can share a very honest and true story. Maybe I shouldn't share, but maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But I have grown up with this in my own life. Maybe I will in the future. I probably will. And of a success story in my family and big success stories in my family. And so this is something that is very dear to me and where it's been very misunderstood. And you know what? I do think he is very much a success story because he tried to do everything he could in his struggles to help other people. And I remember when he he converted his house in Malibu to a men's sober living facility. He was really devoted to bringing awareness to addiction and to depression and the fact that it is an illness. And I believe he is working on a foundation right now. So I applaud him. I don't know. I didn't read his book. I wasn't a huge Friends fan, although I definitely admire all of their talent and think they're, all very likable characters and actors. And so with that said, I feel that in homage to Matthew Perry and to people struggling with addiction in this time with Saturn and Pisces, even the people that are involved in this war are wars, I should say plural. And there are many wars going on, not just those wars. There are gun wars going on. There are wars of violence. There are all sorts of wars. But the big wars, in the Ukraine and in Israel and the Middle East and Gaza is that, everybody is just, in a time of just, it's just horrendous. And so I think trying to find a way to center yourself, help other people. And let's say a prayer for Matthew Perry for trying to help people. And he's at peace now. And maybe his story will help somebody get sober. You never know. Maybe it'll scare them to go and make that call and go to an AA or an NA meeting, or maybe they'll, whatever. But I do feel, and I've felt this, I've said this many times, that when Saturn and Pluto met up at the world point, had they met up at 7 degrees of Pisces in January of 2020, we'd be even more screwed than we are now, because we'd be really lost. Saturn and Pisces may not be in its detriment or its fall position, but it feels like it is. Try to contain the water in your hands. Doesn't work very well. So with my feeling on this is that we're all struggling. We need to swim together. We need to be schools of fish. We really do. And the world is becoming further divided. It's very frightening. That eclipse energy is still looming. We're in Scorpio season. Today, Venus is making a good angle to Uranus. That's positive. That's innovative energy. But Mercury right now is at the world point at 15 degrees of the fixed sign of Scorpio. This defaults back to the lunar eclipse on May 5th. That was at 15 degrees of Scorpio. This also defaults back to the total lunar eclipse on November 8th. That was at 16 degrees of the fixed earth sign of Taurus, the opposite sign of Scorpio. Maybe you're getting more information from last fall, working with it to improve it. Jupiter happens to be in Taurus. Jupiter is the luckiest planet. It's the grand benefic. In this weekend's eclipse, Mars opposed Jupiter, and Mars was working with Mercury. Mercury also opposed Jupiter. That was expanding the very, sadistic and angry energy of the Scorpio energy and of Mars and Scorpio, which Mars is going to be in Scorpio through November 24th. So, we have to be aware of the fact that people are very fired up, and that awful shooting in Maine, and then there was another shooting in North Carolina. Where does it stop? And I think we can expect this to be a very turbulent fall. I would love to give better news on that, but I don't think that's the case. I think that working together with Saturn and Pisces, prayer, meditation, music, love, helping other people. I will be Pollyannic now because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this like the rest of you. I find myself having trouble focusing or it's just a very frightening time. So, this is my lucky crystal with my love that we share, and something that's gotten us through a very difficult time. And I wish you all a lot of good luck with this very difficult time, whatever gets you through. And let's pray. Okay? Take care.